Okay, so new 52 frames project, depth of field or macro or something like that. So I'm out on a frigid cold Sunday morning, and I'll turn this around slowly. There's a lovely sunrise over downtown Indianapolis coming up, so I figured I'd come out here and do a little bit of photo shoot work, something like that. Photo shoot work, yes. What I ended up doing was coming out here next to the White River and setting up a little macro scene. There is tiny AT-AT and just my 5D Mark III and 100mm macro lens. And to get the angle right, I actually used about 4 of these, my key cards, just sitting under the lens, resting on it like that, and took a few HDR shots. So pretty simple setup. I like the way it looks, and we'll go back and do some editing on this stuff. I've already gone through and created my HDR file here, but just so you get an idea of how this works in Lightroom, after you import them, your photos will obviously show up in the little film strip down here. But to create the HDR file, you have to find where you have your 3 or however many exposures you do for the HDR image. My 5D Mark III automatically can do 3 images, so that's how I set this up. In here in the library, under this view, for whatever reason, the camera automatically generates a JPEG HDR file, which looks kind of like that. But then you have normal exposure, raw, the -3 stops exposure raw, and the +3 stops. But it puts the JPEG one right here in the middle of it, and I don't really know why it does that. So to get around that ordering issue, if you are in the slide view here on your folder of images, you can just drag and drop and rearrange them. So say out of these 4 right here, this is the JPEG HDR, and I don't really want to use that right at the moment, so I'm just going to drag it to the end. And then I have my 3 raw exposures right here, 25, 6, and 7. So hold down the Shift key and select those 3, and then Control or Command G groups them together. And you can see it's a stack of 3 images here. And if you click on that icon, it opens them back up, and then these other 2 are kind of shaded darker to give you an idea that those are part of the group. Select them again, and then go up to here to Photo Merge HDR. And it has some different options, and I've played around with this a little bit, and I don't really see a whole lot of. And if you have people moving or something in there, this deghost can help clear that out, but I'm not going to use that for this, and just create that HDR. You can see up here it's running, and it'll drop it in here in a minute. Oh, right here. It's always a challenge finding where this is at. Alright, so I'm going to bring this back over right there to make it part of that. And so that's what we get. Probably not a whole lot different. I've already edited this one just a little bit, so what I did to edit is just some simple exposure tweaks. Brought the vibrance down a little bit to slightly desaturated, bumped up the clarity, did a little curve here, and some split toning because I wanted it to be a little bit warmer looking image. So added this tan color into the highlights and just a hint of a blue-gray into the shadows. Alright, so that's pretty much the whole process on this. I think I'll take it into Photoshop and just tweak some of the details on our little Imperial Walker here. Go in here, flatten the image, save it, and it should be back over here in Lightroom. And just a little bit of a vignette into that. Touch the grain. Let's see what dehaze does. Do I want that? No, not really. I just sometimes play around with this dehaze thing to see if it does anything interesting. I actually like it looking a little bit flattened out like that. Alright, we'll call that good.